Welcome, everyone, to the Culinary Now podcast. I'm Matt Britt.
And I'm Jamie Schick. And today we are so lucky to be joined by Lasheeda Perry, the Queen of Flavor. Lasheeda, we are so happy to have you on the pod today.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we cannot wait to speak to you about so many topics. So let's just dive right in. I'm going to start with how I introduced you, which was as the Queen of Flavor. And you've kind of built your brand around this title. So can you kind of talk about where this all began?
Yes, it was actually, I was fortunate enough to be on Food Network Best Baker in America. It aired, I want to say about 5 years ago, and it was such a big deal for me because I had been on Food Network before, but I was just surrounded by so much talent. And to be able to be on that platform where I'm up against my peers who understand the day to day grind. Like some of us, almost all of us knew someone in common. That's how crazy it was. And while I was on the show, because it had multiple episodes, and unfortunately, the first couple episodes, I was dangling at the bottom. But the judge, one of the judges, she said, "You know, Lasheeda, I know you've been at the bottom a couple times, but you always bring the flavor." Always. And she was like, "You know what? You're the queen of flavor." So, once the show aired and I got back to work and family and friends, signing off like, "Bye, Queen of Flavor," or "Good morning, Queen of Flavor," or "Can I get this Queen of Flavor?" And I was like, "Okay, Queen of Flavor it is."
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think that's a great title. And you spoke to that. You've been on Food Network a few times before. You've also worked at the Four Seasons. You worked at LinkedIn. And I know you've been abroad studying and working. You recently were part of the NFL, the Taste of the NFL. Can you just talk about any lessons you've learned from your vast experience in the pastry world?
It really comes down to, and I think we forget this sometimes. Yes, the food is important, but interpersonal skills are just as important as your technical skills. And I know for sure that's why I've been able to maneuver through this industry the way that I have, is that I understand that you have to maintain those relationships no matter how big or how small. And I think if you understand that and you hone your interpersonal skills just as much as you want your cake decorating skills, your breads, whatever, then that's the secret ingredient.
It's interesting that you kind of land on that because the interpersonal side, and I heard you mention this when you were describing your time on Food Network, is that everyone kind of knows everyone else, or at least knows like some degree of separation. And from your time at LinkedIn, which is all about networking, and then to hear you say interpersonal skills are really the key. We had an interview with another guest a long time ago, and he said it's not what you know, it's who you know. You're kind of saying something similar. How important is it for young up and coming chefs to almost force themselves outside their comfort zone? Because I know a lot of chefs, when they're starting out, are really nervous about speaking publicly. They're really nervous about networking. It seems like you've built a brand not only on talent, but also on your ability to schmooze a little bit. How vital is that?
It's very vital. I've never used the word smooge though. So that's a good one. Even once you get your foot in the door, and I think that's where people get lost. Yeah, it's who you know, but how are you going to maintain that relationship though? That's the hard part. I've met people all over the world, celebrities, but I'm not a big star celebrity chef. I'm not. And that's not because, I don't have the skill, but you still have to bond and build that relationship. And I think that's where these young or upcoming chefs or general managers, whatever part of hospitality industry, is like, how do you maintain your staff? How do you retain them? Are you doing team buildings with them? Are you literally on the ground with them, helping them decorate that cake? Are you giving them the tools that they need to be successful? So to me, it's more than just who you know. It's like, all right, I know you now, but how am I going to know you 15 years from now, 20 years from now? And I always tell up and coming chefs, like, have real life mentors. Yeah, it's great to love, whoever you love as far as a chef, but if you can't call them when you're shit deep in chocolate cake batter or your wedding cake is falling over, then to me it's pointless. So I still talk to my high school culinary teacher, Johnson and Wells instructors. So it's maintaining those relationships more than who you know.
And that's so true because we actually went to school together. So we right? So it's so true. Like we were in classes together, we were in pastry arts club together. So maintaining those relationships is definitely really important and I'm really terrible at it, I'll admit. But what you said just speaks so true and like Chef Harvey still talks about you, like she
I
still loves you. So
love Chef Soliday, Chef
yep.
Stam, Chef Miskovich. Ah, just the list goes on and on. And yeah, it's such a good feeling because you need that. And it keeps you grounded, it keeps you humbled, and reminds you how far you've come from. So to me, it's not even just the the networking part. It's like, wow, these people knew me when I couldn't even make pastry cream. Like I was scorching
Yes. Now this kind of leads to my next question because I now teach at Johnson and Wales and I have a lot of
Oh, I'm so
students
proud of you.
in
Congratulations. I've actually I totally forgot to tell you, I met one of your students in Hawaii on
no
Lanai, which is
way.
the smallest island in Hawaii. She's a JWU as well. And then I was in Phoenix, one of the chefs at the Wrigley Mansion. She was like, I see you follow Vanilla Bean. I was like, yeah. We went to school together. She was like, "Oh, I don't know her, but I follow her work, and I saw you." I was like, "Yeah, so it's a small world, small world."
Such a small world. That's crazy. But I think it goes back to what you talked about first is like when you were on Food Network, everyone kind of knew someone who knew someone, like the 6 degrees of separation, right? And I think the pastry industry is small, so whether you know someone via social media or personally. I have people reach out to me all the time asking questions. So I do feel like I know them because we've chatted via social media. But what I wanted to go back to was speaking about when we were in school, and now that I teach, I have a lot of students in my plated desserts class that are always wondering, how do you come up with flavors? How do you design desserts? So I'm curious, where do you start when you are creating a dessert, and what kind of inspires you?
You know, I have such an open mind to that because I feel as though inspiration can come in so many forms. It doesn't have to be the ingredient itself. It doesn't have to be the theme. It can be something so small. It could be a conversation. It could be me talking to my nieces or nephews. So I think you just really have to have an open mind. Conversing with people on a diverse level has really, really been crucial to my success when it comes to developing menus or flavor combinations, like knowing what my staff eats for dinner or what their Thanksgiving spread may be. That has really, really helped me a lot.
So on that, like this idea of sourcing inspiration, maybe in some untraditional, like you mentioned nieces and nephews, like I think that I agree with you. I think that there are so many ways that you can kind of gain insight or gain motivation or inspiration from all these sort of external, non in the kitchen things. I look at your website and the first thing that it says is that you love nature. How does nature play a role in, because this is a trend we see sort of happening across the whole food spectrum, is that people are leveraging the natural world to inspire their dishes. How does that work specifically for you?
For me, it's more, yeah, it's nature, but it's connecting with people that's part of that, right? Like when I went to Australia, I was there on the land with one of the oldest Aborigines tribes, and that just inspired me. Like how we were eating witchetty grubs. I didn't even know what the hell a witchetty grub was at that time, but giving one of the Aborigines kid a granola bar, and he literally took a bite and spit it out in front of me. I'm thinking like, if you don't give me that piece back, that's my last granola bar. But understanding that everyone's environment, the nature around them is what inspires their food. So if I have to think of an Australian themed menu, I'm thinking of literally taking myself back to Australia. I'm removing everything that's in front of me right now. If I'm sitting in New York, I don't want to think about New York. I want to really put myself in Australia's nature. So what are they having? Are they using wattle seed? Are they doing kangaroo, Vegemite, or they want some emu, wallaby? I literally try to put myself. So that's what nature does for me. It's like literally putting myself wherever I need to be that is reflecting that menu. Like when I was doing the Super Bowl in Phoenix, I really wanted my menu to reflect what's growing in Phoenix. So I didn't know, but they're known for dates and pecans and citrus. I was like, I never would have thought that. So I did like a whiskey date ice cream bar dipped in a chocolate peanut glaze. So it's more of like transporting myself within nature where I am at that time.
I
And
mean, no
just
big deal. You just dropped that you were just at the Super Bowl. Like,
It was the event. Is not the Super Bowl. It's just the Super Bowl. They that's one of the biggest culinary events that they do, but it's actually for a nonprofit called Gen Youth, where their mission is to end student hunger. I just got very fortunate this year, and I was able to go, but that's not the reason why I was there. But it was
and,
nice.
and just and just to clarify, because you mentioned being in Australia and you're eating witchetty grubs, those are bugs. So like when you
Oh
talk
yeah.
about when you talk about flavor, and I want Jamie. This is like I haven't told her this. I want to do a podcast all about like eating bugs because I've been fortunate enough to work with some of them, and they are full of flavor, and it's a very weird experience. But being able to appreciate something that's outside our own sort of general, DNA of taste and what we perceive as good, I think really helps strengthen your ability to leverage those flavors. So
Yeah, absolutely. And just being open minded once again and knowing that, no cuisine is superior anymore. Um, Knowing that, most of us are classically French trained, but that doesn't mean that we can't enjoy a witchetty grub. And naturally, your mind tricks you, right? Because you're like, all right, I know I'm eating this bug, but I need it to take me to a place that I can relate to. So they threw it in like the residual fire, and so it crisped it up. And to me, the exterior, my brain was like, all right, you're eating bacon right now, that's the outside. And then the body itself, it almost like coagulated like a scrambled egg would be. So I was like, all right, I'm just eating
exactly, yeah.
breakfast here.
You described that so well, and like it's funny that you say like, and I don't want to turn this into like a bug podcast because that's probably not where we're going, but you describe this idea of transforming your mind, and then the texture on the outside when you can get over that like disgust, right, of what we think is, it's actually kind of creamy on the inside and crunchy on the outside. It's things that Western palates appreciate,
Right.
and it's just you nailed it.
Thank you. I
well,
haven't had one
let's
since
talk.
though.
Let's talk more about these unique ingredients because aside from bugs, you also mentioned wattle seed, which many people might not be familiar with. What other unique ingredients do you enjoy working with, or that you've found that are just like mind blowing to you?
Um, Definitely, and it's not mind blowing anymore. I kind of felt like when I first discovered them, they were, and you know that from when I was at Johnson and Wells. We have to talk about ube. We
Oh,
can't
I love ube. Yes, please talk about it.
we can't have this conversation. And the funny part is such a full circle moment. The student of yours that I met at Lanai, she was actually at Johnson and Wells when I did my DVC. Um, and she never heard of ube, but then she goes to Lanai and she has a ube dessert on the menu, and she felt like she was so ahead of the game because she remembered that I spoke about it back in uh, 2018. But my first experience with ube was at the same island that we met at because they have a huge Filipino population. And one of the older pastry cooks there, she had a small restaurant, and she invited me over and she gave me the dessert halo halo, which has jellies in it. It can have red beans, monk fruit, shaved ice, coconut, but it always has a scoop of ube ice cream. And that was back in 2012. And ever since then, I was hooked. And so many people, especially those who don't know the Filipino culture or the cuisine, they're like, Lasheeda, what is that? What are you doing? Like, you'll see. And now you can't go anywhere without having ube, right?
That's so true. Actually, Trader Joe's had an ube ice cream a few years ago. So it definitely has blown up for sure.
Yeah, so that's definitely, but that's more sentimental to me as well. And that's once again, just really being open minded to someone else's culture. And how that can transform you, because here I am, an African American woman going into like Four Seasons, and I'm like, I'll put ube on the menu. They're like, what? This is not an Asian themed restaurant, or this is not this. And I'm like, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter because everyone eats ice cream, right? So that um, yuzu definitely has been popular, I think, for the last few years, but I know this year it's even more popular than ever because it's like the new citrus, right? We're getting tired of lemon, limes, and oranges, but yuzu, Buddha's hand, even clementines, they've always been around too, but I think people just get caught up on the mainstream citrus. But Buddha's hand is really fun. When I was in Phoenix, I'm like, all right, they said citrus, so I don't want to just do lemon, limes, and oranges, right? So I was like, can I get some Buddha's hand? And so many people are like, whose hand do you want? Like, I even had like one next to my station because I knew, excuse me, that I would get several inquiries like, okay, what is Buddha's hand? Then when I showed them, they're like, is that real? What is it?
So you were using ube before it became a huge thing in mainstream, and you were talking about yuzu kind of becoming a little bit more well known and kind of having a year. Do you see anything else that you think might be trending for 2023 that's coming up? Maybe you can look into your crystal ball and let us know what you think is happening.
Yeah, Asian flavors are always going to be popular. Matcha's not going anywhere. And I
Right.
think it's for me, I only not use it for flavor, but you're going to see people using it just as a natural food color. Because I use it sometimes to enhance the color of pistachio, not to give it
Yes.
flavor, but to make it more green. So I think you're going to see matcha more not for its flavor, but as a natural food coloring. And that lends to flavor, but it's fun when you can use, freeze dried fruit to color your items, but not necessarily give it flavor. Um, More Asian flavors, pandan. I have a couple Vietnamese friends, so I knew about pandan back at LinkedIn, and LinkedIn was the place where I really got in tune with flavors. I was always in tune with flavors, but more on a global level, even more so because LinkedIn, by the time I left, the company had grew 300%. And I never forget that I left Four Seasons to go to LinkedIn. And I was literally told, like, why are you throwing your career away? Like, what are you doing? And LinkedIn was one of the most pivotal stops in my career because I really, really got an understanding what it was to grow your interpersonal skills because you're working not just with your staff, but you're guest facing. And those engineers, like, they were very straightforward with me. If they didn't like it, they told me. Or, if I try to make an Indian dessert using saffron, which I think saffron is going to be a popular flavor, and cardamom, which is used highly in Indian cuisine. So yeah, it's definitely Asian flavors are here to stay. Pandan is very unique because it's hard to use because its flavor is very overpowering. It's almost to me nutty, like a nutty, I don't want to say like ube because it's not, but it definitely has like a nutty profile, which we need nowadays because so many people have nut allergies. So I'm always trying to find flavors that can give me nuts without me using nuts, whether that's brown butter. Brown butter is not going anywhere, but I think a lot of flavors that we're going to see this year are going to try to mimic nuts because there is I don't want to say fear, but I know through my travels the last couple years, like some places have asked me just not even to use nuts, and I'm like, but I love nuts. Like, we used to put frangelico on everything, like amaretto on everything. Like there was nut flavor. So I think we're going to see that resurfacing. And I kind of feel, and speaking of nuts, I know like there's nut allergies, but I feel like pistachio is trying to make a comeback. Like pistachios are like, if you go to Italy and stuff, obviously they love pistachios, but here in the States, I don't know if they get the appreciation they should. And it could be because the best pistachios do come from Italy, and you have to chop off your arms and leg to afford it. But I think pistachios will be popular too.
So, on the idea of the comeback, I mean, you've always been sort of at the forefront of like what's coming next. But and I was talking with Jamie before we jumped on the call. I'm in the market for a new computer, so I was looking at Apple's, and they have all their computers in colors, and they're spinning just like they did in the early 2000s with the iMac.
Yeah.
And cars are now being replicated to look like they did in the 70s. People are remaking movies. What is the culinary industry in the same boat where we're just what old is new again, or are we going to see that? Because
Nostalgic, retro. And throughout your career, especially, Jamie and I, we went to school. When did we graduate? '08. So we've been around
Yeah, oh
for a
seven, oh
while
eight. Yeah.
now.
wow,
But I know, God, it's crazy. Um,
I
and
graduated in '03. I
oh,
graduated. Now I feel old. Oh my God,
you look young though. It's
I
okay.
appreciate that. I really appreciate that.
But yes, history always repeats itself, no matter if it's food, fashion, music. The music nowadays is just everyone sampling stuff, and food is no different. Vintage cakes are coming back. Everyone, especially I think the pandemic has done that for us even more so because we all wanted our grandma's apple pie because we were missing her, right? We're too busy to spend time with her when we had the time, but then when life stops, you're like, I just want my grandma's apple pie. So yes, I think we are definitely going to revisit some classics. And I think the last 5 years of my career, my approach has always been, all right, I'm taking this quirky, this sophisticated, quirky approach to my desserts because I know that even someone in their 50s, they want to go back and have, a similar childhood experience when it comes to desserts.
That's so interesting, and I,
I
I
was just
just
going to say, I agree. I had the same thoughts when we were talking earlier. I think you see it in pastry all the time. And I was actually thinking like pâte à choux, eclairs, those over the last few years have really, really turned gourmet and specialty. And it's not like the old school eclairs that we used to have that were chocolate glaze, vanilla filling. They've really, really come a long way. And so I think everything is cyclical, just like you mentioned. And I think pâte à choux is like the perfect thing that's kind of having a really awesome moment.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And sometimes us older chefs, although you and I were on the cusp of being older chefs, but they push back a little
Mm.
bit. Like, what are you doing? And I literally just had this experience the other day. A lady, anyway, she owns a bakery. Her dad opened in 1971. And she's like, yeah, I make amazing cream puffs and pâte à choux, whatever. So I showed her a picture of mine. And the first thing she said was, well, I don't make mine like that. Almost like, get this out of my face type. And I was like, whoa, I was like, to each his own. If I want my pâte à choux to look like a turtle, that's my business. It tastes good. It's matcha. It tastes good.
so not to change gears 100% here or a complete 180, but I do want to go back to the future. I know that you do a lot of
I did
pop-ups.
a topic. That was my topic for pâte à choux. I did Back to the Future. That's
I
funny.
That's
love it.
perfect then.
I love it. So, Lashida, you do a lot of pop-ups, and I think that we the word pop-up is sort of ubiquitous in our industry now. People are doing them; they're pretty standard. But a trend that's happened relatively recently is pop-ups in these sort of unconventional like food outlets, not restaurants, not brick and mortar. They're now getting recognized by whatever awards, James Beard, World's Best. I don't know. Do you think this is good thing? I mean, obviously you probably do because you live in this world. But what's your take on the emergence of the pop ups as a serious contender or a serious entity in the world of food?
Um, a lot of our industry is changing so much that I just think we have to take it for what it is. It may phase out, but I understand we all had to pivot during the pandemic. Most large hotels were furloughing their staff or cutting back. So I don't blame any chef who wants to pivot and do something out the norm because I had to. I think we all had to. I was working from home for like the first year of the pandemic, and I never thought that in a million years. But it was respected, it was valued. So if you want to pop up, even hotels though are getting into that. When I was with Four Seasons as an employee, they had something called the Pop Down, where they would pick a random city and maybe do a pop up on a boat. Or when went to Philly, they took an abandoned high school and did it on the rooftop of that. So people are yearning for different experiences, and I think it's here to stay for a bit. It definitely is.
I think I would agree too. And Matt, I know your class, you do pop-ups in your class. So I think that this
We
is
do.
great
Yeah.
to
Oh,
hear
that's
that
awesome.
what you're doing is what is happening in the industry. So I think
Yeah,
that's a good connection.
my take on this, and I try. Jamie will say that I don't do this. I try not to give my opinion because I want to. Obviously, you're our guest, but like my take on this is good food, and if it comes in the form of a restaurant, a food truck, someone working out of a ghost kitchen, like that food deserves equal stage with everyone else in the world.
I
And there's so many variables, as you said, that can cause someone who has immense talent to present their product in a way that is unconventional. Like you don't have to have white tablecloths and, you know, dress up to go out and have a nice meal. We know this. You can go out and you can have the best food of your life sitting on a milk crate in an alley in Thailand. But
and it's more
I feel like
memorable at that point too,
it
right?
is. It's experiential. And that's one of the things that you see, like all these restaurants that are imparting like live fire into their restaurant. And they have like the Argentinian grills. Now, number one, that creates great flavor, but also it provides experience for the diner. And when they leave there, like, yeah, they're going to say the food was great, but what they're really going to remember is the fact that there was a live fire that someone was handling. And I think that that's where, in my opinion, food is heading. And I think that that's a really healthy thing.
Right, absolutely. And a lot of this is coming from that some of these chefs didn't have a space to do that. This has given them
Yes.
full creative flexibility. And then when you speak on the diverse aspect of that, a lot of chefs did it because they weren't getting the opportunities at large hotels or fancy restaurants. So
Yes.
from a personal aspect, I respect that. I totally do.
Yep.
Absolutely. And the money aspect too, like getting investors
Mhm.
to put money forth. So I think, yeah, I would agree. Well, I think this has been a great conversation. And Lashida, we want to thank you so much for joining us. Can you let
Yes.
people know
Thank
where they can
you.
find you if they're looking to get more information on you and what you do?
Yes, you can go to my website, queenofflavor.com, or you can check me out and follow me on IG at BTHEE, Queen of Flavor, and see which city I'm popping up next. I'll be in DC starting
What?
Saturday until next month. I'll be doing a guest chef appearance at the Salamander DC Hotel for cherry blossom season. So
Awesome.
That's at the Mandarin Oriental, right?
not anymore.
Oh, it moved.
Well, it's the same building, but Salamander has taken over. It's not a
That's
Mandarin
awesome.
hotel anymore. So I
Oh, that's
think it's been
awesome.
over a year or two. Don't quote me on that, but yeah. So that's
No.
why they're trying to initiate new ideas, new concepts, and I'm one of the first guest pastry chefs that they're having. So I'm excited. And cherry blossom season, we're going
It's the
straight to
best.
Japan for flavors.
That's so awesome.
That's
So
awesome.
So I've been out of DC for a while now, but I lived there for almost a decade, and it is a truly special place. So I hope you enjoy it, and
Well,
I
you
know
have to give me
you'll.
some recommendations. I'll be there for 5 weeks, so
Well,
I can
I would tell you, I would probably tell you to go to a hotel that doesn't exist anymore. So I think,
but I'm there. I'll be there. So technically, you're right. I'll be there.
yeah, enjoy it, enjoy it. And we know you're going to crush it. And if you're in the the DMV area as they call it, please take a trip into the city and check out what Lasheeda is doing. Follow her on social. Go to her website, and let it be known we had the Queen of Flavor on this podcast.
Yay.
All right.